Hello and welcome to TVB News. Cathay Pacific canceled at least 21 flights today as part of its measures to ensure enough manpower over the Lunar New Year travel peak. The Transport and Logistics Bureau has expressed concern over the series of flight cancellations to the city's flagship carrier. Jackie Lin reports.
Earlier, Cathay Pacific Airways said it will cancel around 12 flights a day over these 2 months. Today, at least 21 flights were cancelled. Apart from some long-haul flights, Cathay called off flights to destinations including Beijing, Taipei and Singapore without disclosing the reasons. Among the passengers affected was travel show host James Hong. He wrote on his social media page that on Sunday, Cathay only notified him that his flight from Taipei to Osaka was cancelled when he reached the airport. Cathay's ground crew member suggested that he take a transit flight in South Korea or rebook another flight with Cathay the following day. While Cathay offered a dining voucher as compensation, Hong eventually spent some extra $2,200 to buy another air ticket with much of his itinerary disrupted. Hong said some Japanese TV representatives waited for 6 hours for his arrival. Cathay's official social media account later commented on the travel host's post, saying that it's willing to offer assistance, but Hong was only directed to a customer service chatbot. Hong said such issues have tarnished much of Cathay's reputation. The Transport and Logistics Bureau said it has urged Cathay Pacific to provide appropriate support and assistance to affected passengers and minimize the disruptions. It has also asked Cathay to review the flight and manpower arrangements. The Civil Aviation Department has also been asked to continue monitoring and conduct follow-up work with Cathay. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
The Housing Authority has recorded an overall year-end surplus of more than $12 billion, but it is expecting the amount of surplus to plummet 80% over the next fiscal year. The body also revealed the once every 2-year review on the rents of public housing will likely take place in the third quarter of 2024. Jackie Lin again.
For fiscal year 2023-24, the Housing Authority is expecting an overall surplus of $12.6 billion, but that's set to shrink to around $2.6 billion next year. Though the body anticipates a modest surplus of $100 million in public rental housing estate operations this fiscal year, 4 consecutive years of spiraling deficits are on the way in that category till 2027-28. Will that trigger a rent hike in public housing? The Housing Authority admits that as the city moves on from the COVID pandemic, it's time to review the rental levels. And if rental levels are not raised, the body will see annual deficits of at least $1.1 billion in the coming years. It said rent adjustments, if any, will depend on tenants' income during the rent review for public rental housing to be conducted in the third quarter of the year. But as the sale of subsidized home ownership flats and commercial units continues to buoy income, the overall operational surplus will likely return to the $10 billion level after the next fiscal year. And with the increased housing supply and construction costs, construction expenses will rise to the tune of $40.8 billion. And that only covers 1/3 of the government's 10-year public housing targets. The Housing Authority expects the cost of construction after fiscal year 2027-28 to further double from the current estimate, and the cash and investment balance will dip to $40.6 billion in 2028.
In the short run, we don't have the pressure, because we do have some reserve on hand, which is sufficient to support the coming years, the construction plan. But in the long run, according to the government projection, if we are required to double the building of the public housing, and then most probably the need for more resources will be latter part of the plan. I think that is around maybe years 2028 to 29 or beyond.
The Housing Authority will hold a meeting on January 16th to vet the budget. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Last month, the government proposed new arrangements to facilitate private landowners to exchange sites in the northern metropolis. Today, lawmaker Edward Lau called on the government to further facilitate more forward-looking and unconventional policies to expedite the development of the North District and its industries. Lau suggests that the government allow for exemption from submitting various construction documents to streamline the administrative processes. The lawmaker from the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong said that could help cut 2 to 3 years of development periods. Lau said the Northern Metropolis Coordination Office mainly comprises personnel from urban planning backgrounds. And instead of auctioning housing or commercial projects individually, Lau said the government should consider bidding the whole neighborhood in one go and co-develop the district with enterprises. To facilitate the setting up of innovation and tech companies in the area, Lau said the government should also formulate relevant ordinances tailored to the need of the Northern Metropolis. Top U.S. congressional leaders have agreed on $1.6 trillion in top-line federal spending for the 2024 fiscal year in a deal aimed at averting a partial government shutdown later this month. Republican U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson said the top-line figure includes $886 billion for defense and $704 billion for non-defense spending. The defense portion had already been signed into law by U.S. President Joe Biden last month through the defense spending bill. Biden said the deal moved the country one step closer to preventing a needless government shutdown and protecting important national priorities. The Republican-controlled House and the Democratic-controlled Senate will still have to agree on how to allocate these funds. Congress was scheduled to return to Washington this week to tackle January 19th and February 2nd deadlines for settling government spending through September. This amid Republican demands to reduce fiscal 2024 discretionary spending below caps agreed to in June. Nearly a week on from the collision of two planes that caused a massive fireball, the runway at Tokyo's Haneda Airport has reopened. 3 airstrips have remained in use since the incident, but the fourth had to be closed to facilitate the removal of debris. Now the Transport Ministry says the airport is almost back to full capacity and was busy today. Over 1,000 flights were canceled after a Japan Airlines plane landing at the airport collided with a Coast Guard plane on the runway. Haneda Air Traffic Control has added a new position to bolster safety as the cause of the disaster is still being investigated by authorities. They're trying to determine if the captain of the Coast Guard plane was given instructions to enter the runway or he did so by mistake. The captain escaped with burns, but his 5 colleagues were killed. All 379 people on board the Japanese airline flight were safely evacuated. The bodies of the victims have been returned to families. Colleagues saluted as the coffins were driven away. Over 160 people are now known to have died in last week's earthquake in Japan. Dozens are still missing. There are still fears of aftershocks and landslides, with hundreds in temporary accommodation. A winter freeze has added to the difficulty faced by rescue and relief workers in some areas of Ishikawa Prefecture. There have been several power outages and mobile phone signal is not available. Wajima is the town that has seen the most damage following the New Year's Day quake. The magnitude 7.6 quake triggered waves of about 1 meter along Japan's west coast and neighboring South Korea. A fire broke out, destroying many homes in Wajima. Some streets have been reduced to rubble, while other buildings look like they could collapse at any moment. Businesses are trying to restart, but there is no electricity or running water. China said its security agencies had found another incident of British spying. It said Britain's MI6 intelligence service used a foreigner, identified only as Huang, to collect secrets and information in China. China's Ministry of State Security said on its WeChat social media account that MI6 in 2015 established an intelligence cooperative relationship with an overseas consulting agency headed by Huang. Huang entered China several times, with MI6 instructing him to use his public identity as cover to collect intelligence for British spying, the ministry said. The statement said the Chinese government has taken criminal coercive measures against Huang after discovering evidence of espionage. Britain said Chinese spies are targeting its officials in sensitive positions in politics, defense, and business as part of a sophisticated operation to obtain secrets. Beijing has condemned the accusations. The prosecutor in the trial of former media tycoon Jimmy Lai today read out undisputed facts at the West Kowloon Law Courts. This is the 7th day of the high-profile trial. Lai is the founder of the now-defunct newspaper Apple Daily. He has pleaded not guilty to 1 count of sedition and 2 charges related to the national security law. Mimo Singhai reports.
Armed police and police dogs continued patrolling outside the West Kowloon Law Courts today. The prosecution in the trial of Jimmy Lai read out a set of undisputed facts agreed by both sides, prosecution and defense, as they entered a 7th day. The prosecution mentioned the founding history of Apple Daily and positions of Lai and other senior staff members in a document for Next Digital Board of Directors dated between 2019 and 2020. Lai said Hong Kong and Taiwan are the company's 2 main markets. On May 25, 2020, the English edition of Apple Daily was launched. An article entitled "For International Line, Read Apple Daily for Free" was also published on the 25th. 161 articles with suspected seditious intent, which were mentioned previously in the trial, were available to read online and on print. The public could watch the Apple Daily talk show Live Chat with Jimmy Lai online. Around 800,000 people subscribed to the digital version of Apple Daily, generating over $37.5 million worth of subscription revenue for the company every month. In June 2021, police arrested the former CEO of Next Digital, Zhang Yimhong, and former editor of Apple Daily, Chen Puiman, along with other senior executives of Apple Daily. Police found a chat group named English News on Chen's phone, with group members including Lai, Zhang, and other senior staff from Hong Kong and Taiwan Apple Daily. The former editor also contacted Lai's assistant Mark Simon and chairman of Hong Kong Watch Benedict Rogers, according to her WhatsApp records. The undisputed facts also included a slogan of the SWHK group presented on Apple Daily website. An English translation of the slogan, "Join the Movement," was also displayed on the website. Police also found that Lai contacted political figures in the United States via email, such as the ex-Deputy Secretary of Defense and an ex-Army general. The trial is adjourned until Tuesday. The prosecution will call 15 witnesses to testify in court for the next stage of the trial, including 2 expert witnesses. Mims 9, TV News.
Guangzhou authorities have asked public places, such as the airport and subway stations, to include proper English translations on signs starting from next month instead of only the pinyin equivalent. This is Shamian, Guangzhou, a popular tourist spot. The English on the sign is clear and comprehensive. Starting from February, Guangzhou authorities will implement a new measure asking 11 types of public venues in the city to translate Chinese characters into standard English when applicable. They warned of consequences for any violations of the order. That's the news. Pearl Magazine is up next with more on the Northern Metropolis development. Bye for now.